Well, hello, traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little. This is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets, doing it from a neoclassical perspective. That means we're looking at supply and demand. We're using the neoclassical model to read the tape. It tells us which way to point. It tells us when to get in, when to get out. Supply and demand on the charts, that's where it's at. I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, broadcast at 4:10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube and under the channel L.A. Little. If you want to subscribe, just reach up in the right-hand corner and do so. Anytime I push public content, you will get a notification. As far as how to reach me, that's where you send the emails. If you're interested in what I do, if you want to know more, and if you want to actually take a spin with the site, just drop me an email and we can talk about it. I also push public content on my Twitter account. Not all the content, of course, that I push on the private Twitter account to members, but there is a good deal of information out there. So if you're interested in updates during the day, you can subscribe to that account. And so what did the markets do today? We got a pullback, but by the end of the day, what do? They come in and buy it, as always. Finish almost flat on the indexes. Same thing on across the board, Russell as well. You had some more selling in the oil market. Gold was up a bit on some of the fear trading that was out early. The overseas markets also finished down, but again, fairly flat across the board. Let's take a look at the S&P, because we've actually got some changes out here with respect to what's going on. The first thing you're going to notice tonight is the big bar in terms of volume. I'm not really sure what drove this volume. It's in a month. I saw it in Europe as well. For whatever reason, volume came in here today, and that actually sets up an interesting characteristic, one we haven't seen in quite a while. And so the focus the next few days is going to be how these bars trade. And what I'm talking about is when you have volume that comes back into a swing point like it did, you did get the retest and then the regenerate in the top third of this bar. That's what you would expect. That part of it's good. The bad part, you came down with volume. So in other words, you're coming down, you're hitting this thing with volume. And even though you got the bounce, you got this hammer reversal, that's a negative in that I suspect you're going to see it come back down here and do it again. Whether it does it tomorrow or not is not the question. The expectation, though, is before you go legging higher again, you're going to probably see another test of the downside. And so that's the way the S&P draws up. Now, the other part of it is if we bring in the weekly chart here, and let me pull this down a little bit farther. When you bring in the weekly chart, what you have here is you actually have a swing point high that wants to be tested. Top of that high, 24.98. Today, you got the 24.03. So got close, not in it, but the fact that you came down here with some volume on this daily chart suggests to me that that test is actually going to take place. And so that's the way it looks up on that. If you look at it on the monthly, we've been pushing volume on the way up. I did push some decent volume again this month and trying to leg higher. So all systems go with respect to that chart. Again, what can you say when you're pushing new highs on a regular basis? That's a bullish market. Looking elsewhere, let's see if the other indexes did the same thing. I suspect we're going to see the same thing. Here's the NASDAQ. Again, pushes volume. Now, this one's a little bit different because here you actually had a new high. So you actually set a new high, you push volume on that. So you can't tell which way this one wants to trade. It can test it back to the top side and the bottom side. It's just going to be a question of which way it flips. NDX, I'm believing, probably did the same thing, and it did. The one thing I would point out is that the one thing that did not happen today that was bearish earlier today was that you had a bearish engulfing here, and that actually gave it up with the rally that took place in today. Let's see with the Russell. Now the Russell pushed down hard again. The Russell's been stuck in this range. And oh, this one's interesting. Okay, so this one actually tests the bottom of this range. Remember, we've been talking about this is the new range, right? You had an old range back here that's still holding price as well. And so you kind of got this broad range that's going on. This little zone up here is going to be hard to get over. This little zone down here is going to be hard to get under. Well, what did you do today? Well, you pressed down into the bottom of this and volume expanded on that press. That says it's going to come down here and try it again. Now again, just like the S&P, you've been in a bullish market on most of these indexes. Doesn't have to do it immediately. That says that you're pressing the bottom, you're selling it with more volume, and more than likely you're going to get a continued test in that direction. I'm going to flip through these sectors to see what they look like, and I'll keep an eye here on my monthly chart as I do it, because what I'm interested in is, did we get any kind of volume escalation on the monthlies to the downside anywhere? Expectations we didn't, but I don't know that, so I'll flip through these, and as I do it, if there's something interesting, I'll show you. So here's the IBB on a daily, gets under, back over, has more volume. This is going to come back now and test into all these lows that it broke, which is what it's doing. Odds are it's going to do a potentially a full retest because of that. The fact that it had more volume says it doesn't have to. So this one stuck in a trend, trying to push lower on the monthly, on the weekly. It's got a huge barge playing into, so that can trade lower. ITB, so the home builders. This is one that's been up year to date, very big. Now this one's interesting. I'm going to pull the monthly over and show it. This one got over back under less volume on the monthly, which is a negative. And here on the daily, I've been pointing out for a while, she had a bearish engulfing here, this bearish engulfing, which led to a push down, got under, back over, did a little push up, then turned around, came back down. This one's testing lower, folks. It's now back into this retest, regenerate zone, bullish on the daily. Going to try and test the lower third of it now, which happens to be where the support lines up on the TA today charts. Let's see on a weekly. Really nothing on the weekly. So still some more pressure there, it looks like, coming in to that sector. On the IYR, again, pushes volume down. Nothing interesting on the monthly. Let's go to transports. Let's see here. On the transports, also pushes volume down today. Not huge, but some. And nothing special on the monthly. Semiconductors. Now, these have been on fire, of course. Let's see what they traded, So these traded volume on the monthly to the upside on a break higher. So that says good things about that sector. And also on the daily and so far on the weekly, looking fine. So semiconductors still looking very strong. If you move to the basic materials, pushes down with volume, but not as much. Notice the difference here. This one comes into this big bar, doesn't have as much volume, and reverses with a hammer. That's actually positive, says it can trade higher. On a monthly, really nothing happening there. Let's move to the energy. We know energy's been getting sold. So what does this one look like? So it gaps down again today, ends down on a daily. On a weekly, it's under, it's not going to have volume. And on a monthly, there's really nothing. Well, actually, there is something interesting on the monthly. Here's the monthly again. What's happening here that's interesting is that you've got a full retest, regenerate on this bullish retest regen. And so this is like the end of the line if this is going to turn. So if you're looking on a monthly basis, right, this thing had gotten sideways, gotten over a swing point high, had traded over this swing point lows high, which was a positive. In other words, all the things that you would look for to tell you that this could be finally turning. You're at the end of the straw here with respect to the retrace. It's got to turn now, or that all isn't going to work. If we look at the XLF, the financials, they were under pressure today. And that one actually stayed inside this bar, so that doesn't count as a reversal. Let's look on the weekly. Still looking at it, I've talked about these things before, head and shoulders, right? This is kind of a head and shoulders if you're using classical. If you get inside this thing, and forget about classical, it's all about supply and demand. Can you break it down? So far they haven't been able to. If they do break it down, there's nothing until you get down to here. So it's going to be a big trade and a fast trade, and that's going to bring some fear into the market if that breaks. So far, it hasn't. Let's look at the monthly on this and see if there's anything there. And here's the monthly. Yeah, nothing there. Turn into technology. And on the technology sector, now that's an over-under, more volume, trades back. This is actually kind of bullish. This sector won't give it up, folks. There's the trade. It's back into this big bar, flips it around. Now that one can trade right back up to the highs. And looking at it on the monthly, there's nothing wrong with that one. So technology, both in semiconductors and in tech itself, still looks strong. Looking at the industrials, nice reversal, finishes at the highs. Weekly looks fine, and the monthly is fine. Durables, these have been getting a nice big boost off of what looked like somewhat of a fear trade. Got another boost today, closed in the half of it. That's kind of a negative. So in other words, this pushed up, got higher, and then closed back down, and still looking okay on the weekly, and the monthly gets the breakout. Suspect but a breakout, so that's again a positive. That's in a safety sector. If you look at the utilities, another safety sector, also push up today on the weekly and on the monthly, breaks out. So two of the three quote-unquote safety sectors trading higher. Last one is healthcare. That one tests on a daily, on a weekly still looks fine, and does break out on a monthly. So all three of your safety sectors, durables, utilities, healthcare, all trading higher. Money doesn't want to leave, folks. It just rotates to what they think is safe. Here's the discretionary. Of course, Amazon's been pushing this, about 20% of that sector. Gets over, breaks on a on a daily and on a monthly and a weekly, still look fine. When I look at this, discretionary still strong, industrial still strong, technology strong. Only thing that's really sucking wind, financials, energy, that's not going to be enough to break this down. This market is still going to try and go sideways to higher overall. Near term, you could get that push back down. If you get the break in financials, that will put some fear in this, get a quick drive down, which in my opinion is going to be a buy. That's it for tonight. Have a great one. Take care. See you next time.